Today we are going to talk about short-haul flights and some very important things that you need to know before you take off. Before I get started, please click subscribe so you will be alerted the next time I post a video. Also, give me a thumbs up if you have any short-haul flying tips to share with my audience. I consider a short-haul flight to be any flight under 3 hours. These flights usually get relegated to the smaller planes like the Embraer 175 or the Boeing 737-300. The biggest problem with these planes is there is no seat that isn't an aisle seat. You may think this doesn't matter, but when you are in an airport and you are trying to get from your gate to your seat, it can be a real problem. If you are traveling alone, you will have to get up multiple times during the flight and when you land. It's also hard to get comfortable because you are going to have to scoot over every time someone needs to use the aisle. On a recent trip that I took on an Embraer 175, the lady next to me was sick, and she ended up throwing up all over her in my seat. That's kind of gross. I was lucky enough to get an upgrade to first class on the return trip, and I do think I will ever go back and coach on one of these small planes again. Now let's talk about the seating chart. In general, I try to avoid the window seat on a short-haul flight. I've had too many incidents of turbulence where my window seat makes me feel like I'm gonna die. Now I always pick an aisle seat, but I don't pick the seat right next to the bathroom. Even though it may seem like a good idea to sit near the bathroom, it's really not. People getting off the plane at the end of the flight will just be waiting for you to get out of that seat so they can get off the plane quickly. If you do choose to sit next to the bathroom, I would suggest picking the seat at the front of the bathroom area. If I am flying alone, I try to book an aisle seat that is not next to the bathroom. This way I can store my carry-on in the overhead bin, and then I can get up easily to stretch my legs in the aisle or go to the bathroom without having to ask some stranger to move. And once the seatbelt light goes off, if you want to get some work done, the aisle seat is the best way to go. You can open your laptop and spread out your papers. If you are in the middle seat, you will have to be considerate of the person in the aisle seat. They have to get up, and they will have to climb over you to get out. Now here's something that I never thought I would say, but I actually prefer sitting in the middle seat. When you are flying alone, sometimes you can book a middle seat and pay less than an aisle or a window seat. The reason I now like the middle seat is because I discovered that I like to put my armrest down in the middle. When I put my armrest up, I often poke the person in the shoulder beside me. It's just the way that I am built. So now I put my armrest down in the middle, and it gives me more room. If you are flying with a partner, then you can split up and take an aisle and a window seat. This is great if you want to both get some sleep, and maybe one of you wants to look out the window. But when you are flying with a friend and you want to sit together, I would suggest taking 2 aisle seats. This way you don't have to bother your neighbors by climbing over you to get out of their seat. When you are sitting in an aisle seat, you should make it a point to be considerate of the person sitting next to you in the middle or the window seat. Don't hog the armrests. I see this all the time. Someone will book an aisle seat and they will put both armrests down. This is very annoying to the people in the middle and the window seat because they don't have any armrests to use. Here's another thing to keep in mind when you are booking your short-haul flight. You are going to be in that seat for several hours. When you are seated, take a quick look around and see if you are happy with your seat. If you are seated in an aisle seat, you can slide over and check out the seats next to you. If you don't like your seat, then now's the time to ask a flight attendant if you can move. Once the seatbelt sign goes on, you aren't going to be allowed to move. I love sitting in the front of the plane. I don't know why, but I always feel like it's going to be a smooth ride in the front of the plane. I also like to be one of the first people off the plane. If you like to be in the front of the plane, then you should book a flight that has first class or business class seats. My favorite place to sit in first class is in the front row, because then I don't have anyone reclining into my seat. And speaking of reclining seats, here is something that you should never do. Never recline your seat when the person behind you has a tray table up. I saw this happen on a recent flight. The person in front of me reclined his seat, and it hit the tray table of the person behind me. Now he couldn't put his tray table up for the meal. Speaking of meals, remember that on a short-haul flight, you probably won't be served a meal, but you will be served a snack. Usually the snack is a sandwich or a wrap. Sometimes you get a choice of what you want. Always pre-order any special meals that you need. Most airlines allow you to do this for free when you book your flight. If you don't want to eat the food that is served on a short-haul flight, Bring your own snacks. Short-haul flights can be delayed on the tarmac for hours. If you are hungry and you don't have any snacks, you will end up eating whatever they serve you. Bring some non-perishable snacks like granola bars or nuts. A little-known tip is most airlines will let you bring a whole bag of peanuts on board, even if you are flying with a peanut allergy. All you have to do is ask. One of the worst things about being on a short-haul flight is not being able to access the overhead bins. It seems like every flight attendant has a different policy on this. Some flight attendants will tell you that you cannot put your carry-on in the overhead bin until the plane is full. Then after the overhead bin space is full, they will tell you that you have to put your carry-on suitcase under the seat in front of you. Even though the seat in front of you has a tray table, I hate putting my carry-on suitcase under the seat in front of me. It is just too hard to get stuff out of my bag during the flight. If you are flying with someone else, you can have them watch your carry-on suitcase while you go to the overhead bin. But if you are flying solo, you are going to have to get creative. What I do is I put my carry-on suitcase in the overhead bin as soon as I get on the plane. If a flight attendant tells me I have to put my carry-on suitcase under the seat in front of me, I simply tell them that I have a medical issue and I need to keep my carry-on suitcase in the overhead bin. Now, I don't really have a medical issue, but I have a medical excuse. Here's one excuse that you could use. Say that you have a blood clot in your leg, and you need to keep your leg moving in order to prevent the blood clot from getting bigger. There are some perks to flying on a short-haul flight. One perk is you don't have to go through TSA pre-check. TSA pre-check lines are long, and they can be intimidating. If you are flying a short-haul flight, you can usually just go to the regular security line. Another great thing about a short-haul flight is if you arrive early in the morning at your destination, you can usually stay awake and adjust to the new time zone while you are on the plane. And if you arrive late at night, you can sleep on the plane and wake up in your new destination. Well, those are all my tips for flying on a short-haul flight. Please let us know what your tips are for flying on a short-haul flight. And if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.